We're looking at the problem that you're born to solve in the world, right? And we're trying to get past starting a project or going in a direction with your life and getting burnout where you just get sick and tired of it. So this next part's finding passion, finding something that you would fight for and something that you would die for. So the first part of this exercise, we're going to be looking at the entire world. We're going to be zoomed out, and I want you to ask yourself firstly, what are the problems that you see in the world? And I want you just to take a few minutes just to write down, what are the problems that you see in the world? And we're starting off really zoomed out, and we'll eventually narrow it down. So right now, just thinking really big picture, what are the problems that you see in the world? And then after that, I want you to ask yourself, what makes you angry in the world? What makes you angry? What drives you crazy in the world? And then I also want you to ask yourself, what breaks your heart? What in the world breaks your heart and makes you want to cry? And if you get more things than the allocated lines on the workbook, obviously just flip it over, write down as much as you want. There's zero limit on this. Really just get everything out, all the things in the world that break your heart, drive you crazy, make you angry, all the problems that you see in the world. And we're just going to jot them down for another 90 seconds. Just the last 20 seconds here. And we're going to zoom in a little bit, going from world to community. So your neighborhood, the area that you live in, the your sort of more immediate surroundings. So looking at the community, we're just going to go one question at a time again. What problems do you see in your community? And there's no issues if things overlap, just blurting things out, all the problems that you see in your community. And you can ask yourself the question of, what makes me angry? What drives me crazy about the community? And if you're ready for it, you can start to add in what breaks your heart about the community? What makes you want to cry? We'll just be here for one more minute. It's the last 10 seconds there. So now we're zooming in even further. And I want you to look at family and friends, past and present. And I want you to ask yourself, what problems did you see in your family growing up? Let's start with that. Let's do one at a time. So just asking yourself, what problems did you see in your family growing up? And don't overthink it. There's no right or wrongs. It's just anything that comes into your mind, things that you experienced in your family, uh, with your family, maybe things they were going through, dynamics, whatever it is, the problems that you saw in your family growing up. Maybe it was things that made you angry. Maybe it was things that made you want to cry. Things that drive you crazy. And what problems do you see in your family now? What things drive you crazy, make you angry, make you want to cry? And what problems did you see with your friends growing up? What was happening in your with your friends that made you angry, made you want to cry? What things were happening in your life with your friends when you're growing up? And also, what problems do you see with your friends now? And we'll just do one more minute here. And just the last 10 seconds. And of course, you can always go back to these after the call, um, add to the list, and create and expand. But we're going to move on to looking at yourself now. And I want you to start off with your younger self and think about what problems did you struggle with when you were growing up? And again, work through that list of what what problems did you have when you were growing up? What things were driving you crazy? What things were breaking your heart? What issues were you having when you were growing up? Really, this is one I want you to take your time with this one. This is the big one. You can go back as far as your sort of first memories. What are things that were problems, things that you're struggling with? And then you can slowly work your way up through the years, but really take your time with this one. It's the important one. And you can work your way up through the years, thinking about early teens, sort of break it down in that sense, early teens, and then keep working your way up. Early adults. Working your way towards now. What are things that you're struggling with now? What are problems that you're facing now? What things drive you crazy now within yourself? Are there things that you're dealing with that break your heart yourself, that you're going through? It's got a couple more minutes here. Last minute. Last 10 seconds, gang. So, amazing work, guys. Really powerful reflection exercise and really good way to give clarity on things that are significant to us. So, the next part of this exercise is starting with yourself and then working your way back up towards the top, the world. I want you just to spend the next 5 minutes going through and finding, you're searching for a golden thread. There's something that is going to be repetitive through yourself, friends and family, community, the world. There's going to be something that threads between all of them. Maybe there's like two or three things, maybe there's just one key thing. But I want you to take your time and go through and try to notice what thing was just recurring throughout all of the different areas that we looked at, and start to narrow it down. If there's things that are that keep on popping up, then we can put them down in its own separate list. And we're essentially just going to start narrowing it down, looking for that golden thread. And it's going to be something that has been in your life for a lot of your life, right? It can be like something happened when you were younger, and then you noticed it again when you're a teenager, and then when you're an adult. And it's like, yeah, this is actually a theme that has been sort of bouncing in and out of my life for my entire life. But just take your time with it. Start to work your way up and down the list, searching for that thread. Really hunt for clues. Really, and this is now you're doing investigative work where you're hunting through it, going, oh yeah, okay, cool. Well, that ties to that. That thing's really similar to that, and that was a pattern. And you're really looking at everything that you've got there and trying to really figure out the thing that is, fuck, it's always been there. It doesn't have to always have been there, but it's always threaded in and out. So when you're looking at, I'm assuming that you've probably got, say, 1 to maybe 4 things that maybe overlap, that kind of intertwine a little bit. I just want you to start asking yourselves questions about these things. So you want to try and keep narrowing it down to that number one thing. So you can ask yourself about the things you've gotten down on your short list. What is it about that makes me angry? What is it about that breaks my heart? And then also asking yourself, well, what would the world look like if this problem didn't exist? And you're looking for those moments of like, oh wow, if this problem didn't exist, it would be the most amazing. The world would be so much better. You feel that your body ignite when you sort of ask yourselves those questions. And also asking yourself, would I fight for and die for to solve this problem? Like if you could solve this problem for every person in the world, would you die for it? Like literally, you're going to solve this problem for every person in the rest of the world, doing it for everybody else. Okay, if I could solve that for everybody, I'd fucking die for that. At a bare minimum, really fight for that. Maybe you don't want to die, but would I really fight for that to solve that problem for everybody? It's got to really hit home. I want you to hopefully getting towards a place of like, yeah, this thing fucking gets me going. And I know this is quite tricky when it's not direct one-on-one where you can fire back questions. So don't worry about rights and wrongs. We're just playing, exploring, searching, doing some digging, and these are things. This is you can take this with you, and we can chat afterwards and chat in a little bit as well. Just keep digging and uncovering and seeing what comes to the surface. So we're going to chat about it in a minute. Has anyone got any questions? All right, so let's have a little discussion about it. I'm really curious to know how the process went for you, what kind of things you've been jotting down. If anyone wants to, does anyone want to start the sharing process, and we can see if we can uncover and dive into it. So I guess, yeah, does anyone want to go first? So my one was when I did this, and it helped a lot having my coach there one-on-ones be able to uncover it with me, was I realized that I fucking hate the feeling of feeling disconnected. It was, and it threaded through my life when I was like 5 years old. I remember sitting in the playground, and I had no one to play with, and I felt disconnected. And for me, disconnection was isolated, lonely, and also hopeless. And I just had moments where my life sort of been like a big pendulum, where when it swings one way and when it swings the other way, it's like, oh my God, I don't even know, how I'm going to get through this. And so I landed on disconnection for myself, which is trying to help bring people inner peace by reconnecting them to themselves, to their friends and family. Well, it starts with yourself, right? Because as soon as you become more whole of a human being, you feel more grounded, you feel more centered, then you can connect more with the people that are around you, your community, and eventually to the universe, to your creator, to God. So that's the path that I ended up going down with this. If anyone else wants to share what they've got, and there's no right or wrongs, and we can hash things out. I know it's quite a complicated one to get through when you're sitting there by yourself and trying to like work with all these words, and it's like, fuck, there's this, but maybe if you share, we can get a bit more clarity for you.
Tom, I'm happy to share, but I feel like I don't know where to start with all these lists.
Yeah.
Like if I zoom out and look at the world, there's a lot of things like war, homelessness, cost of living crisis, animal cruelty, and then like mental health struggles, people feeling alone, lack of genuine connection and belonging. And then if I zoom down, like to community and my friends and family, I think it kind of comes, trying to figure out how to say it. It's like the social media addiction, lack of quality time with loved ones, lack of being present, which ties back into my values from last week.
Cool.
And then like as a kid feeling, I'm a middle child, so I always felt left out. I don't know if that's just like a false thing that middle kids feel, but but that kind of trickles down to lack of quality time together, and like with friends, lack of, the thing that annoys me is lack of time spent together and irregular
Cool.
catch-ups. And like not spending intentional time together, like spending time when you're on your phones.
Yeah.
So
it sounds quite similar to connection. And it's a huge one, and it's not an uncommon thing for people to have that as something which they're just passionately trying to explore. And connection can mean different things for different people as well. So yours can be a different version of connection to what mine is, or even can be the same. In fact, doesn't matter. And it's so I write connection down, and I guess, well, we're more so looking at the problem. So the problem would be more of like a disconnection, or I don't know if it's like I think disconnection is probably a good place for you to start as well.
Yeah, I don't want to like copy yours because I.
No, it's like there's like a group of like a dozen or so that are quite sort of recurring, where it's these are things that people feel most passionately about. If you feel really passionately about connecting with people and having that quality time with people, then it's something that needs to be prioritized in your life. And there's going to be ways that you can nurture connection with people, and it's going to be like part of your purpose in life will be to make sure that part of your life doesn't go unnourished. It wouldn't matter if every single person in here wants connection. Fucking oath. Well, let's prioritize connection. Let's go out and make sure that we do what we're born to do as humans. I mean, it makes sense that it's something that we care about the most. All we used to do, hunters and gatherers, roam around in packs and do shit together. Now it's like you sit on your phone, you order Uber Eats, I need to go into the rant we all know about, but the connection's a huge issue. And so we eventually, as part of this, is we take we end up making a game plan that is specific to you, right? So my one, we look at gifts next week. I think it's next week, and gifts determine your vehicle. And so if your my understanding is really good with like writing and creating and that sort of thing. Maybe not, I don't know, but we'll figure out what your gifts are later. But let's say, for example, your gifts are like writing and creating and storytelling, then maybe the vehicle that you're going to make for connection is some sort of book that people can follow along with, or I don't know, something along those lines. If your gifts are things like public speaking and motivating, then you're probably going to be trying to solve disconnection by getting on stage and letting people know about it and trying to that way. So there's different threads that you can use to solve that problem. So I would write disconnection down. I'd let that sit, marinate, and then I'll give you some homework for it as well afterwards. But thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Of course.
I can share mine. I found it quite difficult because I wrote quite a lot down. And I was looking at all of the different problems from world through to myself. And when I took quite a long time to think about it, I could identify that at the very core of every single problem is that there's just not enough love. There's just people just are not coming from a place of love. And for me, that was the core problem for everything. So I don't know how to put that in words.
Maybe lack of love. It can be a lack of love, the lack of love in the world. It probably ties in with like things like empathy and care for your fellow person. But I would just land on the lack of love for the moment and let that marinate. And there's going to be, again, gifts that you've got specific to you that can help try and fight the problem of the lack of love. And I think lack of love's a really powerful one, and you can sit there and let it marinate on is the problem lack of love, or is there a word that describes it better for you? You can really sit with it, feel it, and then we'll play a bit more with the homework and make sure we've got some good clarity on it. But that's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Jane.
Nice.
I'll share my one. The common thread through all of mine was there's kind of two strong ones, was loneliness and like anxiety, depression. But when I think of like the strongest one for me, what kind of is like most powerful for me of my one is like the anxiety and depression, the problem of anxiety and depression in society and family, friends, myself, everything.
I love that, Yolande. I love that. And if you could solve anxiety and depression for every person in the world, I'm sure you'd probably die for that. Like you would, if you could solve that problem for everybody, you'd die for that. Yeah,
that's a really strong one for me.
Yeah, and so that's the kind of thing where you'd never get burnout trying to solve that problem and help people that are experiencing that. You'd be able to work towards that forever. Assuming you have a few ducks in a row, which is one of them is I think next week's actually people, and then gifts is after that. So people is the people that we're born to solve this problem for, right? If you're trying to solve mental health and anxiety, depression for everybody, you will get anxiety and depression. You'll never win, right? We need to get really specific on the kind of person that you're supposed to solve it for, because you cater to them and they receive you in a way where it actually fulfills you and you can make progress, right? If the kind of person, when we'll do people next week, but if the kind of person that you love the most is carefree, giving, Yeah, maybe it's like, maybe you just love kids, right? Maybe the person that you love the most is like carefree, giving kids that love to have like a crazy imagination, right? And it could, just as an example, then you know your target market. There's no point on you going to try and solve mental health problems for adults if the people that you fucking love the most are kids. You're supposed to be working with kids to do that, right? So we can get some more clarity on that, but I think that's an amazing one. I think that's an awesome step forward, just knowing. And hey, none of this has to be your job, right? None of this has to be your job, but if you spend one day a month on like a passion project, whether it's working with an organization, and this will come into your gifts, right? If one of your gifts is leadership, then you'll probably be starting your own organization. If one of your gifts is like, fucking I get given a direction and I absolutely handle business when someone tells me what to do or whatever, like however you word that, then it might be helping out a foundation. So it can be these things that you just do once a month. If you spend one day every single month focusing on mental health. If Jane spends one day every single month, and it's like, okay, today I'm going to work on the problem of lack of love, whether that's building out some sort of community thing or whether it's like just going and giving and leading by example, then it's going to bring you so much fulfillment.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
I think for me, like it kind of kept popping up when I was writing it down, like teenagers.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what is most painful, seeing them like in anxiety and depression.
Right. Great. Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Does anybody else want to share?
I can just quickly, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my values last week came up as belonging.
Yeah.
And just through doing all of this and stepping through all of these different things, the vast difference I've learned over time, the thing that's come up as a problem for me all throughout these activities is being accepted, striving to be accepted from other people. I did that a lot in my childhood. I did it a lot in my adolescence. Less so now, but just wanting to be accepted and going to extra lengths to try and be accepted, fit in with other people's molds, and fit in with society as whatever we thought the expected behaviour was.
Yeah.
And it's took a long time to stop doing that. And that's kind of what I want to help others do, just accept themselves.
Amazing. I love that. And so is it so just something to play with and think about is maybe the wording could be maybe something like, the problem that I'm born to solve in the world is rejecting yourself, rejecting others, and I want to solve the problem of rejection for these types of people, and the thing they want the most in the world is acceptance. And then your gifts will be excellent. Your gifts are going to be perfect to solve the problem of rejection, or I don't want to put the word into your head, I want you to come up with it yourself, but you're going to have a special set of gifts that allows you to go on and solve that problem. But that's beautiful. Thanks so much for sharing, Sandra. Anyone else? All right, cool. Dang, I love that. So there's some things that you can do for homework. So just to make sure, and we kind of already did it a little bit, is just really thinking about what would the world look like if this problem didn't exist. And I want you to really think about that for a little while. And write down, what would your community look like? What would the world look like? Just to really ignite that flame in your belly. What would your life look like if that problem didn't exist anymore? Just to help ignite that flame. And if you don't feel the flame come on, then we've got a deep dive back into it. So don't hesitate to reach out. So that's part one of the homework. And also, part two, I guess, is just starting to get a bit of clarity on how you can really word it, what words sit with you the best. You can go on to thesaurus and type and be like, oh, you know what? Maybe rejection isn't quite right. I'm going to put rejection into the thesaurus, and up pops suppression and and nullification. And it's like, oh, that's that word. Wow, always felt nullified. Yeah, that's the. So take your time, go and play with that and explore, so you can come back and go, yeah, the problem that I'm born to solve in the world is this. And so we're going to look at people next week. So like I was saying before, there's a specific group of people that you're born to solve this problem for. And if you try and solve it for everybody, it is a disaster, right? If there's people that like, I'll just tell you what mine are. The people that I love the most are grateful, generous, thoughtful, and playful. And so, you know, if I'm trying to like do this exercise with somebody and they aren't playful, or they aren't like generous or grateful or anything like that, then I can feel that straight away. And they're going to resonate really well with somebody else who maybe is a little bit more I don't know, just different to myself. If I try and solve the problem of disconnection for these people and I'm not getting back what I'm giving myself, then I'm not going to want to do it anymore. So next week we're going to be looking at people. Now, what I want you to do, so I guess part 3 of the homework, I want you to write down 5 people that you would want to spend every day with for the rest of your life. So write down the names of 5 people that you would be like, yeah, if I had to spend the rest of my life with 5 people, it would be this person, this person, this person, this person, this person. So write down those 5 people's names. And then I want you to write down the characteristics that you love about each person the most. So about 5 to max 10 characteristics of each person. What are the characteristics that you love about that person the most? Cool. All right, so that's people. I'll just share my screen again and get the purpose puzzle out. So we've done identity, the lion and the sheep, sitting into your lion self. We've done your values. So again, if something doesn't align with your values, fuck it off, or see if you can approach things using your true values. If you're going to work every day for just got to get through this day for a paycheck, see if it can be like, I'm going to go to work today to try and, if one of your values is connection, I'm going to go to work today to, see my colleagues, sit down, see if someone wants to go for lunch, try and use the values as the fuel, your true values as the fuel that gets you going every single day. So we've just done problem that you're born to solve in the world. Let that marinate, sit with it, play with it. Again, it doesn't have to be your job, but if you can spend 1 day a month working on this, and yeah, it absolutely can be a job. It's just anything on the spectrum. Your job can be the funding vehicle to help you do this thing each month. But essentially, we want to get to a place where it's at least 1 day a month is allocated towards solving that problem in the world. So we just spoke about people. We're going to get really clear on the people that you're born to serve. And then after that, we're going to look at gifts. Gifts determine the vehicle. The vehicle is the way that you solve that problem. So are there any questions before we wrap up this week's call? Rock and roll. Gang, I love that you jump on every single week. It's really cool to see everyone just taking time out of the day to come and work on themselves. So be proud of yourself. Race is long. Look after yourselves. Make sure you're taking it easy on the body, taking it easy on the mind. And I'm excited to jump back on with you guys same time next week.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Tom.
So,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Tom. Thank you.
See you next
Thanks.
week.
Bye.
See you next week, guys.
you.
Bye. Don't hesitate to reach out with any questions.
Thank you. Bye.
Of course. Bye.